This week on another Zelda podcast, we talk about our 3 favorite Zelda games, not including Breath of the Wild. Hello everyone, welcome to another Zelda podcast. I am David Geisler and I'm here with my co-host, Kate Fisher. Kate, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm very excited. I don't know if maybe we should actually, just for a split second, talk about why we're even doing this show real quick. I mean, we're not trying to justify why, but...
Do you need a reason?
No, not in my opinion. But you and I were in a play together a few months ago, and we would talk about Zelda in the before the show, like we had our costumes on and ready to go or whatever. And I didn't know that you were so passionate about Zelda and that you liked it so much, because I do. Like, it's my game.
You can't talk to anyone about it either, because some people don't get it. So I think that was cool. I was like, oh, this guy understands.
And then a day went by, another day went by, and we talked about, and I was kind of nerding out on Breath of the Wild, and you were just getting started with Breath of the Wild, because I think you were going to get a Switch in the moment, and then you got Breath of the Wild, and I was a couple months ahead of you, so it was always very fun to hear your versions of your stories of how you were going through the game compared to the ways I went through it. And we'll certainly talk about Breath of the Wild on this podcast from time to time, but today we're actually going to be doing something a little different. Because we talked about Zelda so much before those shows for that play that we were in. Actually, I remember the day. There was a day where you brought in your Zelda compendium book or whatever it is.
Yes.
You have a big fat Zelda history book. What is
Hyrule
that?
Historia.
Cool.
Which I don't even know how I found out about that. I think I saw it at Barnes & Noble at some point and was just like, I must have this. And there are 2 other books like it, both of which I asked for Christmas this year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So when you brought that book in to the dressing room, I was like, I don't know, a little trigger went off and I was like, we need to make a Zelda podcast.
This girl clearly does not care about this video game at all.
And I'm so excited. I'm really excited because I've always kind of wanted to talk about Zelda. And so this is a perfect opportunity. So today I think what we're going to do is, this is your first time podcasting, I think, right? Like you've never,
yes.
You're an actress and you perform and stuff, but I don't think you've sat in a room with microphones like this before.
Only once in a radio station, which did not go well.
Oh.
I was too shy.
Oh, you were too shy?
Yes.
Well, already I'm sure you can feel, if I may, you can already feel that this is different than a radio show.
It's not constant, talk.
Right. Podcasts are, in my opinion, way cooler because it's just about hanging out and talking. So let's tell our listeners what we are talking about today. I kind of thought, since this is a new show and this is a new podcasting experience for you, I thought let's kind of warm up into things. And I said, why don't we talk about keep it real general for this first episode. Let's just do a quick conversation about our 3 favorite Zelda games. Because there's almost 20 of them now. I have the list. I know. It really exploded after Ocarina.
Yes.
All the different Game Boy games came out. And I think I have played every single Zelda except Spirit Tracks so far.
Okay.
And I've only dipped into Oracle of Seasons, but I played all the way through Oracle of Ages for the Game Boy Color.
Gotcha.
Anyway, and so some of the games I remember, some of them I don't remember as well. So we're going to talk about 3 games today. I asked you to pick 2, and I picked 2, and our favorite was actually the same game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to save that for a second. We're going to talk about that after the break. So and this is also not including Breath of the Wild, because I think we both have big fat Breath of the Wild crushes right now. And so I kind of wanted to remove that from the running. So it's almost like classic Zelda games.
And I'm only so far in that game, so I cannot yet make a final judgment because I'm not very far in it at all.
Are you a couple beasts in right now?
On my second one.
I've been working hard. I've been going at it for about 6 months, and I've got about 3 shrines left, and then I'll be 100% complete. But I have not done the DLC 1-pack Trial of the Sword. I have not finished that yet, so that's not totally accurate. But
you will never be done playing that
We might have a little bit of news here. I'm sorry, I just realized we might have some news. The DLC 2 trailer the second trailer just came out.
Oh.
Nintendo released it on YouTube yesterday from us recording this, which is about a week ago from people hearing this. It looks great. So the DLC pack is going to happen. The DLC 1 pack was really just some added stuff, a couple of extra, not extra shrines, but there was a couple extra just
quests.
And they added this Trial of the Sword thing, which I'm having a lot of fun with. Do you remember, have you done the quest in Breath of the Wild yet? I know we're supposed to be talking about Breath of the Wild, but I can't help myself. Have you done the shrine quest out on the island, way out on the island where they take away all your stuff?
No.
It's super cool. It's one of my favorites. And when you find that island, I'm not going to tell you where it is or anything. When you find that island, I think you're in store.
Like I've seen it.
For an adventure.
Okay.
It's cool. They basically strip you from all your stuff, and you have to accomplish 3 goals kind of almost Survivor style. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's neat. Well, anyway, Trial of the Sword is kind of like that too. Pardon me, I'm talking so much. I'm like talking through a cough here. All right, so DLC Pack 2 trailer just came out, and I'm not sure if we're going to do news sections on this show or not. We might if it's appropriate, but otherwise I kind of want people to listen to these episodes in any order they want, because we're going to do episodes. You and I have talked about doing episodes about. We might just do an episode where we just talk about forest temples. In fact, that might be our next episode.
Yeah.
We might do an episode where we just talk about the narrative history of the Zoras and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably do episodes where we'll actually review games, talk about spend a whole hour just talking about a specific game. Mm-hmm. So if I may, DLC Pack 2 looks cool. They're going to add in, it looks like there's a new temple, like maybe a legit temple, or maybe it's a beefed up shrine is gonna happen. And I think the narrative arc is that one of the beasts, it happens after defeating Ganon, so it's definitely an epilogue. And I think one of the beasts starts to act up again, and you got to go fix it and other stuff, is what it looks like. Ooh,
how rude of
face.
that beast.
Oh, okay.
After I do all this work to correct it.
Well, and it's interesting because Nintendo has said that they're not thinking that much about a sequel right now, but they have said that if they do a sequel, they're probably going to go in the same direction that Breath of the Wild went, with kind of this open world thing.
Gotcha.
Some people are speculating that they might use the same data set, the same world, maybe just expand. Maybe there's maybe that mountain range up north, they open up or something, who knows? But that's years away. Okay. So, pardon me. I don't know if we want to bury the lead or not. Do we want to talk about the 3 games? Yeah, let's do it. Hey, let me ask you this first. We're going to talk about, I have a game that is my favorite Zelda game, which is weird. It's we're going to go least favorite to most favorite, but it's our 3 favorites.
Right.
So my first one is Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. And I have a story about that because it was actually the first Zelda game I ever played, which is kind of a weird story. I remember being in 6th grade, and Zelda had come out for years or whatever. It had already been out. I tried as a kid playing the first Zelda, but I was too young and I didn't understand what kind of game it was supposed to be. And I would die after 2 or 3 screens. Now as an adult, I've gone back and beaten the original Zelda, and it's very satisfying, but I can see how as a kid, I just couldn't pull it off. Did you play the original much?
A little bit. I kind of have it. I have a couple older games downloaded for the Wii in the virtual console
on Wii.
Yep. So I played a little bit of them so far. Not all the way through.
Right. Zelda 2 is the one that I really cannot get very far in. I'm not great at the temples in Zelda 2, where the mechanic where you push up and down to do the different dodging, and you have to use your sword in a crouch and a stand. You know what I mean? And your shield can go up and down. That becomes a little much for me. But so anyway, I'd kind of like to talk about Link's Awakening. But for me, I remember I had gotten a Game Boy. I saved up my money and bought one, and I bought a game called We're Back, a Dinosaur Story, based on the movie.
Which I did not know. I have heard you mention that before, and I did not know there was a game for this movie, which was my favorite movie when I was a kid.
So I liked it too.
I need to find that game right now.
It was executive produced by Steven Spielberg, and he was kind of coming off of Jurassic Park and stuff, so there was definitely...
a dinosaur thing?
He directed Flintstones, then he directed Jurassic Park 1, and then executive produced We're Back. So there was definitely dinos were on the brain there for him for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's basically a Sonic ripoff, this We're Back game. Oh. But anyway, so I was starving for games, and I had kind of started dipping into Lufia 2, and I was starting to play some role-playing games on the Super Nintendo. And I was like, oh, I really want to ask for a role-playing game. And I knew I had never played a Zelda ever, and I knew Zeldas weren't exactly a role-playing game, but I did some research, and I thought maybe I'll ask for Final Fantasy Adventure for Christmas or something, which is a Game Boy game. But I basically asked for Link's Awakening and then received it. And I plugged it in, put the cartridge in, and started playing it. And so my first experience was not in Hyrule. It was on Koholint Island. I'm getting tongue-tied right now. Koholint or Haland. Anyway, the island that... Do you know much about Link's Awakening, story-wise?
No.
So it's all a dream. The whole game is a dream. And maybe we should talk about spoilers. I don't know if there's spoilers or not. I think if you're listening to this show, assume that you've played these games.
I think the statute of limitations.
The whole show should be spoiler warning. I think we're always going to talk a little bit about spoilery stuff. If you're into that, if you're worried about that big time. So Link, it takes place, it's in the narrative thread, and Link is trapped in a storm, and he gets knocked off his raft, washes up on a beach unconscious, and a girl comes and rescues him and brings him to this house. in the house, he immediately asks for Zelda, and the father and daughter that live in this house are like, well, we don't know anything about a Zelda, but I'm Marin and I'm Talon and blah, 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 blah. So in Link's Awakening, there is no Hyrule. There's no Zelda. There's no Ganon. There's none of these like staples. And I didn't know it because it's the first time I played a Zelda game.
Yeah, but those names you just said are...
Talon and Marin.
Yeah.
Versions of them pop up of those names. But Zelda does that all the time.
I know. It's cool. That's one thing I really like about the whole
I agree.
franchise.
How do you feel about this theory that Breath of the Wild is actually the real game and all the other games are the literal legends of the real world happening?
Oh, I didn't hear that before.
Because the reason this theory exists is because I know that you found like Tingle Island the other day in Breath of the Wild.
Uh-huh.
And there's all these name references to things in other games.
Yeah.
But as far as where Zelda Breath of the Wild fits in the timeline, people aren't quite sure yet. Maybe even Nintendo's not totally sure. Mm-hmm. So some people posit that it might be the real one. And so like Tingle Island, there's Legends of Tingle. And you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
That maybe these other games didn't happen in real life and they're like the stories of this. But anyway, that's just a cool idea.
Huh.
So Link's Awakening is pretty cool. It plays like A Link to the Past for Super Nintendo, which I'm going to get stoned right now, but actually that's one of my least favorite Zelda games is the Super Nintendo A Link to the Past. And I know for a lot of people it's their favorite.
Yeah.
For some reason for me it didn't click all the way, but I do respect it. I think I had a hard time. This is kind of shallow, but I had a hard time with the aesthetic, like Link with his purple hair and stuff. Like I just didn't love the aesthetic, and the temples. Like I'm in the middle of the first temple again on Link's Awakening. I'm sorry, Link to a Past. And I just can't push through it. I don't know. I don't know if I get bored or what, but the temples in Link's Awakening are great. They're a lot of fun. Oh. I keep calling them temples. They're dungeons, but it depends on which game you're playing.
Right.
What was your first time playing a Zelda game?
That was Ocarina of Time.
For the 64, and it was like when it actually came out.
Yeah, because I was 12 when it came out. And
right.
I probably got it like a year after that because I am not hip with the video game system. So I would always end up getting them like a year after they came out or something like that. But I remember getting a Nintendo 64 for Christmas, and it was the ice blue one.
Whoa, it's right behind you. In this room we're recording right now. I see it. There.
And I loved that thing. I was so excited when I got it. Like I did not want the plain version. It had to be a cool color. And then I got that game as well. And it was unlike any other game that I had played before. Obviously, I came in way late on the Zelda franchise for Ocarina to be the first one I ever played.
Well, that was an entry point for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Actually, there was a lot of people like your age where that was the big one.
Yeah. And I brought my Nintendo 64 to like my sister's house 3.5 hours away from here because I had to keep playing it. I think it was for Christmas or something. And I'm like, no, I have to bring my Nintendo 64 because I have to keep playing this game. Mm-hmm. And so like I would disrupt the entire family gathering just so I could play a video game.
You're plugging in your 64 like in the TV, in the main room kind of thing.
And I'm like, you have to watch me play this now. And I remember making my family laugh because I would just make Link somersault everywhere. Yeah. So he'd be going, and I don't know. My parents were tickled by that. And I don't know. I just love that whole game. It was a gigantic game.
I just realized we kind of organically switched to your first pick. It was Ocarina, wasn't it? As I look at my notes here.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason I picked it.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it. Maybe we'll bounce back and forth between Link's Awakening and Ocarina. And then we're going to save, after the break, we're going to be talking about Twilight Princess, which is our collective favorite Zelda game.
Yeah.
And that's a bit controversial too. People either love Twilight or kind of hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've thought about that too, but we can talk about
We'll talk
later.
about it after the break. So Ocarina. I say Ocarina. I know people say it a lot of different ways. And listeners, you're welcome to say it however you like. Don't hate on. I call it Ocarina. I'm just joking.
They have both options with us.
Did you then? So then, after Ocarina, did you play Majora's Mask?
I tried. Real hard.
Oh, that's right. I think you don't care for Majora's Mask.
I don't like time constraints and time limits. Even if I have the ability to start over, I still don't like that kind of pressing. It's like claustrophobic to me. I don't like the pressure of it. I want to be able to take my time, explore if need be. I don't want to have something looming over me.
So that is one of the criticisms of Majora's Mask. I really did enjoy Majora's Mask just because at that point I had played 2 or 3 Zelda games and I was ready for something a little twisted, a little different. But I agree that time thing was not cool. You really felt it when you were in a temple or a dungeon. And all of a sudden I would have to go into it. I'd try to go into a dungeon the very first thing on the first day so I could get my 3 days of time to really explore. And one of the criticisms of Majora's Mask is that Zelda's all about exploring. And if you have this time crunch, you're inclined to not explore.
Right.
You could
rush through it. Yeah.
So Ocarina. I had an experience with Ocarina where I was playing it kind of in parallel with all my friends. I was in early high school when Ocarina came out, maybe like, I don't know, freshman or something in high school. And I was so excited about it. I did order it ahead of time, and I ordered the gold cartridges. It was like the first video game that I like pre-ordered, that I saved up money and pre-ordered for because I was so excited about it. So many of my other friends did the same. So we were all kind of playing it in tandem or in parallel.
Cool.
So many conversations were had at school of like, oh, have you done this part yet? Have you done that part yet? Have you done this part yet? So for you said you kind of played it a little bit later. Yeah. I would imagine you didn't have that experience then.
Nope, just me.
Yeah.
Just me playing it. Just crazy about it. I don't know. I don't remember my friends really liking or playing video games so much. That kind of video game. I remember like Halo was more...
Oh my God, you were playing Ocarina of Time when Halo was out?
Well, no, I mean like that, eventually that's the friends that I had. That's the game that they were playing. But at the time I was just like yeah, that was just kind of for funsies. I don't know. I was like the random video game kid in the midst of other people.
I enjoyed the Zelda games because I like the action adventure RPG. I like a deep RPG too, where I'm working with stats and all that. That's fun. But you know what it is? Actually, I just thought about this. My favorite thing about every Zelda game are the overarching puzzles in the temples and dungeons. I like the adventure. Twilight Princess gives a little bit more like narrative in between those dungeons until the second half of the game. First half of the game, it's packed with stuff in between the dungeons.
Yeah.
And Ocarina. Oh, by the way, if I may go back to Link's Awakening, I was replaying it a little bit to get ready for this episode.
Yeah.
I think these days, Twilight Princess and Ocarina I prefer them to Link's Awakening. And then after that, I really had some fun with like Minish Cap and the Game Boy Color games. I liked those. I really did. They came out right after, they were the next Zelda game to come out after Ocarina. So they were on the Game Boy Color. Mm-hmm. And they actually it was a cross thing with Capcom. Capcom technically made those two games, but they used all the assets from Link's Awakening. But they brought in the Zoras and the Gorons and stuff like that from Ocarina. That, like, it was like a step up. But anyway, Link's Awakening. I was replaying it, and right off the bat, there's like a little mini fetch quest right in the beginning. You wake up on this island, and you kind of want to get to the first temple or something. I keep calling temples because of Breath of the Wild. Dungeons, whatever. Oh no, actually I think it's Twilight Princess where they call them temples. It gets a little wonky in Twilight Princess.
There are temples in Ocarina too.
Do they call them temples? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're right. Forest Temple. Yeah, they're not called Forest Dungeons. Maybe the dungeons are back in the Super Nintendo days. But anyway, you wake up and it's like, I was kind of going around I was like, okay, let me just jam into this first temple here on Link's Awakening so I can kind of play it a little bit so I can be ready for the episode. And lo and behold, I'm sent down to the beach to get my sword, and then I get the sword, and then I'm sent up into a forest, and I'm sent for one thing in the forest. I guess this is spoilers, but to the key to the first dungeon. And you think, okay, I'll just go up into the forest. You're walking around the forest, and you can kind of see a treasure chest. You can tell that's the key, but you can't get to it. And during your travels, a raccoon basically lost woods you, and like you go up and you get a repeating tile set. Yep. And you're lost because the raccoon like infects you with its toxins or whatever.
Rabies.
With its rabies. You get bit by a raccoon, we'll say. And then you get really disoriented. And eventually you find a witch. And the witch says, I can make powder for you. Oh, and the raccoon says, my nose is very sensitive to things. So you're starting to put things together. And the witch is like, I'll make you powder. And you're like, okay, cool. But her name is Toadstool something or other. So then you're like walking around, and you find a mushroom. And then and you're like, okay, wait, I can use the mushroom. I'll go back to the witch. Here's the thing. She makes powder. The powder, then you bring the powder, you use it on some things. If you're quick enough, you use it on the raccoon, obviously, because he implies that it's sensitive. He turns into another character, which breaks the Lost Woods puzzle. And then you go get the key. And I was like, I'll be damned. I had a little mini fetch quest here right off the top of this game. And that was great. And it was things like that I really did enjoy about Link's Awakening. Personally, I have a personal connection to it because it was the first Zelda game I ever played. I stand by it being my third favorite. And I think it's an accomplishment. It was a really hard job for them to get that squeezed onto a Game Boy cartridge too, by the way.
Yeah. I missed out on the Game Boy games for Legend of Zelda. For some reason, I've just been like purely console with them. I don't know why. I don't really have a reason for it.
I could lend them to you here and there. They're great. The 2DS games were my least favorite, I think, but they were cool too.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with them. So let's see. So you've never played the Game Boy ones. I was thinking as a side project, what if we, on our YouTube page, what if we did over time dungeon playthroughs?
Yeah.
Together, you and I, like,
yeah.
You take a dungeon on Twilight Princess. I'd be happy to do all 8 dungeons on Link's Awakening, because it would be a way for you to see the game. Like, we don't have to do walkthroughs or playthroughs. Let's just do the dungeons as separate videos. Mm-hmm. Does that sound cool?
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot.
Although I've been having some difficulties playing through Twilight Princess again because not all the dungeons are intuitive, but again, we can talk about that later.
Okay, wait. So maybe they're not speed runs. Maybe we call them like sort of speed runs because it's like we know where we're going. We played the dungeons before, but we may not know everything.
I got all the way to the end of one without getting the big key. Like I got to the door and I'm oh no.
Well, if that's part of it, that's part of it. I think that'd be a fun side project for this podcast. Ocarina. How did you feel? Were you expecting the time travel element in Ocarina?
No, but that's one of my favorite parts about it. It's so interesting and cool to be playing the same levels in completely different ways. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and then just as you start to sink into the older timeline, they make you jump back and forth for that. What is it, the Spirit Temple or something? It's the Gerudo one.
That's the Spirit.
That's the one where you have to go back as a kid to fit through the tunnel and stuff, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We both took drinks of water at the exact same time.
Oops.
It's totally fine. What are some highlights for you for Ocarina?
I remember really liking the music.
Okay, fair enough.
Not just like the little songs that you learn to play, but all the music in general, like humming and singing along after a certain point.
Yeah, I remember sometimes pulling out the Ocarina and just pushing the C buttons just to play a song.
Yeah, I love the music.
Remember that part where you make up your own song to the scarecrow down by the lake?
Yeah, gosh, I think I often skipped that part.
Yeah, I don't think you need to do it.
You don't need to do it. And I was thinking about, not that this is something that I liked per se, but this was back when like I could not figure out, like I couldn't just go on the internet super easily and find out how to cheat
Ocarina,
at the game. So it was a really
the internet was around when Ocarina came out. I'm sorry, I just interrupted you. But the internet was around, but like the whole walkthrough culture and that wasn't quite there.
Not quite.
It was starting.
Yeah. So Water Temple was
certainly YouTube didn't exist yet.
Problem, yeah.
Water Temple took a while.
Yeah.
That was like the beginning of the end with those Water Temples. We're going to do a Water Temple episode for sure.
Oh man, it's going to be full of angst. So much angst.
Maybe we'll warm up with a Forest Temple first. The Twilight Princess Water Temple is kind of fun. Like that's a whole thing now. The Water Temples are always supposed to be kind of frustrating puzzles at this point. Did you miss having a Water Temple in Breath of the Wild?
No.
Yeah, I know.
The most, I think.
I keep
troublesome ones.
Pulling us back to Breath. I shouldn't do that. We're going to do an episode we're going to do plenty of episodes on Breath of the Wild, I think. So then what's some of the most frustrating areas? I'm kind of interviewing you right now, if that's okay.
That's okay.
What are some of the most frustrating areas in Ocarina for you?
Well, other than Water Temple. Mm-hmm. That was really it, I think, was trying to figure out how to raise and lower all the different water levels. I spent hours in that thing just trying to figure out.
Yeah, because you have to kind of...
You go back through the same areas over and over and over and over and over and over.
It's true, and you have to kind of slowly just absorb, memorize the whole place.
Is that a water pun?
No, I just meant like, kind of passively, I've been in this room before. Okay, the water's different this time. And you do kind of go through that temple.
Now I can reach this part where I haven't been able to reach this part before. And
you're right.
Etc.
And ultimately, that's one of my favorite things about Zelda is, as I kind of noted 10 or 15 minutes ago, like my favorite thing about Zelda games are the massive dungeon-wide puzzles. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have little puzzles within one room, but then there's like, if I hit this piece of fire here, it might affect that. And one thing that is cool about the water temples is that they are technically logical.
Yes.
Raising and lowering that water. It's not just like, sometimes when you play like a Resident Evil game, it's like, put the gem in the statue. And you're like, why am I doing this? It doesn't make any sense in this universe, but it's the thing that opens the door.
Yeah.
Zelda's pretty good about not having that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times there's logic behind the stuff. Fire arrow to light a thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Ocarina did a bit of that. I remember in Ocarina getting trapped by the Gerudo and being in jail. Do you remember that experience?
Oh, yeah.
How did you, I remember when I realized I could hookshot the wood, I was like, what?
I think that probably took me like 10 minutes to figure that out. I was like, what do I do in this tiny room? I can't go anywhere.
There's kind of a callback to that when you're in jail for Twilight Princess in the beginning too, and you don't know that you can dig yet and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, that took me a while as well.
Yeah, it did as well for me. We're kind of closing in on our break here. we're kind of speeding through these. I don't want to talk about the games too much because we're going to do separate episodes on each game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've decided that maybe we should do some Ocarina Temple playthroughs and some
See,
Link's
that I feel
Awakening
I could do with
playthroughs.
my eyes closed.
All right, let's try those first.
Like that game, I could just, speed
because
through.
we can screen share those, so we can even do it when we're not in the same room if we need to.
Okay.
Like I can, we'll screen share it to you, and then we'll still record a separate audio. I think that'd be a fun thing.
Cool.
I guess we go to break. I'm still learning the format of this show. We're kind of just making it up as we go, and I'm all right with it.
It's a test run.
I know. I kind of told you that this would be like an episode 0.
Yeah.
Just to feel it out.
Figure it out.
I'm cool with that. I think we should go to break and come back and let's just gush into Twilight.
Okay, sounds good.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, you were literally you made a gush face just now. You got all flustered.
Well, it's because I've just been playing it, so I'm like in it.
Yeah,
right
you know
now.
what? I'm excited to talk about it too. My like elevator pitch on Twilight Princess is that at the time when it came out, it was everything that my imagination thought Ocarina was. You know what I mean?
But better.
It was Ocarina again.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, better. Though there are some things that aren't necessarily better in Twilight Princess, and I think
True.
we'll talk about that when we get back.
Yeah.
All right. See you in like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Hey everybody, we are back. This is another Zelda podcast with David Geisler and Kate Fisher. Oh,
That's
I said
me.
that's you. I feel like I just did a weird impression of Gladys from Portal just now. Kate Fisher.
Kate Fisher.
Kate, I put my notes down. We've got like a solid half an hour here to just talk about Twilight.
I like it.
So I like it too. And if people don't like it, that's totally okay, because I know some people that really do not care for it. And I think I know for some of the reasons why.
Yeah, why do you think that is? I have a theory.
Well, let me say that my one critical qualm or whatever with the game is that, and this is something I love so much about Breath of the Wild. I will stop talking about Breath of the Wild. It's tragically too linear. Twilight Princess, in my opinion, it has moments where you are literally following a sniff trail as the wolf, and
Yes.
you can't even see your surroundings.
Yes.
And when you're doing those sections, you're like, why am I doing this? I'm just following a line.
Right.
You know what I mean? One thing that was great, it was the first time that Hyrule Field was starting to get pretty large.
Yeah.
You know?
I noticed that too. I was like, oh, this game is kind of bigger than I remember it being.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was finding new stuff when I was playing through that I had not found before. And I was like, I should have taken more time to like really explore.
I remember
but at the time I didn't.
trying to explore more and wanting to find more when I played it I played it on GameCube the first time I played it, by the way. Did you play it on Wii?
I think I played it on GameCube first, and then I got it for the Wii as well.
This game is now available with 3 different control schemes. You can do GameCube, the Wii controls, or of course now the HD release on Wii U.
I've wondered if the controls kind of play a part in why people maybe don't like the game, because when I started, I first played the GameCube version, and then this time that I'm playing now is with the Wii version, and I'm like, I did not like the controls at first.
So that's fascinating. I remember I got the GameCube version because I just didn't have a Wii at the time. When it came out. And I was just like, I was going to wait. And I finally was like, no.
I must play this game.
Yeah. And I actually bought it kind of late. I bought it a year or two after it came out, maybe a year.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't wait any longer. So I bought it for GameCube and I thought, well, maybe I'll play it for Wii again sometime. But one thing that I was so pleased about is that for the most part, the GameCube controls are identical to the Wind Waker GameCube controls. So you just fit right into it.
Yeah.
Yep. And I actually like the GameCube controls on Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
I think they use the C-stick very naturally. I think the item selection is fine. That Z button up there is good. Like, get that fairy button out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah, the Wii controls are good for the boomerang and the arrows. That's good to like really be able to aim at the screen and do it that way. But camera, awful.
So
because there is basically no camera control with that. You can center behind yourself.
And what's that? Just pushing Z button or something, which would be the equivalent of like RL or something.
Yeah, but you can't float the camera around. Like there have been moments playing this Wii version where I desperately want to get the camera behind me, and I can't. Unless there's
gotta be a way to move the camera with the Wii one.
I haven't been able to figure it out.
It might be like weird. It might be like hold C button and then use the Wii pointer to look around. It might be.
I also don't
horrible.
like the little like fairy cursor that's on the screen all the time with the Wii. version. It's good for when you need the arrow or the boomerang or something. But if I'm just running around, I do not want that on there.
I often recommend the GameCube version over the Wii version to people.
I probably would too.
It was developed for GameCube.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like this. It's a lot like Breath again, where it was developed for Wii U, and then they were like, okay, we'll also put it on Switch.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess was very much designed for GameCube, and then they kind of ported it to Wii without telling anybody. And then they marketed it that it was a Wii game because they had to, because they didn't have a Mario game out for the Wii yet.
Yeah.
And Twilight Princess was the release game for. Oh wow, there's a lot of parallels between Switch and Wii then when it comes to like the Zeldas. We have a mutual friend who coincidentally was in the play with us, Zach, Kyle, when I was in another play with him, 10 years ago or whatever. He lent me the Wii version of Twilight Princess because I had said like, oh, I played on GameCube. I love it so much. In fact, I'd often put my GameCube disc into my Wii and then play with a GameCube controller, because it had the GameCube software in it. And I would prefer to do that than play the Wii version. Yeah. So he lent it to me because I didn't want to buy a Wii version of it. Mm-hmm. And I remember playing it for like one temple and I was like, I don't like this.
I know. But I love the game so much that it just... Yeah. You get used to it, it's... I
think there'll be a day where I'll probably download the HD one on my Wii U, which is actually not dusty. I still play my Wii U a lot these days. I don't know. It's a lot of Mario Maker, and I don't have a Switch yet, so I did get Breath of the Wild for Wii U, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I mean, I kind of wish I had a Switch, but it just didn't work out at the time. Wow. It's... in my life, the Wii parallels and the Switch parallels are almost identical. I bought the Zelda game for the previous system that it was actually developed for. Anyway.
Deja vu.
So I think that was your idea why people may not like Twilight Princess is the controls?
One of the ideas. But I don't know. I like the linearness of the game. I get what you're saying though about certain parts of it where you're just like, why am I even bothering doing this? Why did you make it a part of the game?
Just trying to lengthen it or something.
Yeah.
Now, some parts I love about I'm sorry, you were saying something though.
No, that's it.
Some parts about Twilight that I adore are like early on. The first half of the game, they really do a good job of fleshing out the world in between dungeons. You have to do that. Protect the carriage run. That was so cool. And I remember walking around actual Hyrule Castle Town or whatever they call it in that game. And really kind of feeling like I was in a living world. I love that the people would dodge you. Yep. The algorithms that help so they don't walk in. Those are similar algorithms that help the horses in Breath, by the way. But then like just going into the pub and talking to the people and all these different things, I loved that. I almost liked, the dungeons were great. Now there was a little bit of, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on the wolf situation. How do you feel about it?
Just it being part of the game in general,
the mechanic of it.
I like it because it's interesting. It's different. Yeah. I guess I don't, how you have to jump from place to place with Midna's help or whatever.
That's a connect the dots thing. That's where you're not really playing a game. You're just pushing a button.
You're just pushing a button. But other than that, I kind of liked being able to explore. I liked how it looked in general when you were the wolf, the Twilight.
Yeah.
I don't know, graphics.
Twilight Realm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They had a lot of bloom effects, which was a first for GameCube and stuff. Not a first, but a first for a Zelda game on GameCube. Anyway.
I just like the look of it. I don't know. It's such a beautiful game. That's why I like it so much. It's so cinematic.
I concur.
It's gorgeous.
Yes, I agree. I think it's
very soft color scheme, and I think that's why I liked it so much. It's like
when I was searching for
graphics.
When I was searching for thumbnails for this episode, I was trying to find some Twilight Princess like screenshots, and I'm saying this in a weird way. But I didn't use any of them because they were all so boring. But what I mean by that is the color palette was so realistic. Yeah. A lot of browns and greens.
Yeah, it's definitely not like pop of color at all. It's like soft and...
I remember playing it and thinking like, oh, the Skulltulas actually are kind of scary in this one. Like, oh, the spiders, like things were actually... I remember being a little bit, as a kid playing Ocarina, there were moments where the Dodongos and stuff, like they were scary. Mm-hmm. There was moments where you're like, oh, I'm a little scared right now. And I remember my little sisters not wanting to play it at all because that game was too scary.
Really?
Yeah. They're about 7 years younger than me. But, and then Wind Waker happened and none of that is scary. And I enjoy Wind Waker a lot, actually. I've even come around and liked it even more than I did when I first played it.
Me too.
That crazy. I think the Wii U HD remake of Wind Waker is superior to the original Wind Waker because they kind of fixed that almost broken fetch quest that happens 2/3 away through.
Yeah.
Where
you can't do things in the wrong order.
Yes. 3 times I have stopped playing Wind Waker at that point.
Oh, because
like over the years, over the decade. Yeah, I'm like done.
Oh man.
So Twilight though comes out and it's like I remember literally the first trailer for Twilight, seeing it on an E3 video, and there was the Goron looking like it looked like Lord of the Rings. The trailer looked like Lord of the Rings. The goblins and magoblins or whatever they call them in that game, because they do kind of change the names a little bit sometimes from game to game, that I start to forget which one is called what. But moblins, whatever they are in that game. I think that's
right. Yeah.
Because in Breath it's like magoblin or gobble moblin. They're always
Gobble
rupees,
Moblin.
though. They always call them Gobble Hopper.
Something, yeah. Yep.
So the Gobble Hoppers are coming over the hill on that Twilight Princess trailer. And I remember just being taken with it. I was like, I want to be in that world.
I love all the cutscenes. They're so cinematic.
They are. It feels, I had a girlfriend at the time when I was playing the GameCube version, and she would legitimately just sit and watch. Not to be like, not to just be polite and let me play a game in front of her. She wanted...
It's captivating.
I remember, I knew that it was a good game when one day we both got home from work and we were living together at the time. This is, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And she actually said like, are you going to play Zelda tonight? Like instead of like what's on television?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this game's good.
Like I think my favorite one is the slow motion one where the guys are coming down in the village.
In Kokiri village or whatever it is. Kohalant.
Kakariko.
Oh yeah.
I don't. And then
we might have to get some.
And the kids are about to get run down by like the.
If our listeners know how to pronounce these things, you're welcome to tweet it to us, or actually you can berate us at another Zelda Pod on Twitter. That's our handle right now. Because there might be ways to actually say these things correctly. And it's funny because in a Zelda game, characters we only finally have voice now in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So that is a thing when you're a kid or even just any age. You're reading these words and you're just pronouncing them the way. It's like when someone reads a book and they'll say a character name differently than like the way you read it.
Yeah. And
you're like, ooh, what?
Who's that?
Hermione was one of those back in the Harry Potter days where everyone had a different way of pronouncing Hermione.
Well, it's not the simplest name to
I agree.
try to figure out.
Well, neither is Kokiri Village or whatever it is. Yeah. So the slow motion, they come and they hit the kids and they steal the kids and stuff. Or are you thinking about the slow motion when they first attack Link at the watering hole with
This
Epona?
is when they're about to run down the kids and Colin saves the other one. I forget, there's like 3 of them that all sound exactly the same. And he pushes her out of the way and he's like, I just wanted to be brave like you. And I'm like, oh, it's so cute. I love it.
Twilight Princess is great too because many Zelda games do this, but every single little thing that they teach you before the first temple, I'll say, comes back later.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's how you wrestle a sheep, catch the sheep. Well, you use that on a Goron later.
Yeah, exactly.
And all these little mechanics come back around, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
I also like the kind of blending of, so I like the book series Dark Tower, which we were talking about just before.
We have a Dark Tower poster in this room.
Yep. And I like it because it's such a blending of genres. It's like sci-fi, Western drama, and like Twilight Princess kind of brings in that weird sci-fi element that I really like.
It was kind of the first one to do with
the geometric, the portals and everything like that.
Tech adjacent a little bit. There is like an ancient technology thing going on there.
Yeah, I liked that addition to it. It was like a cool twist.
I agree, absolutely. I remember the sound effects were even new. The kind of reversed, overdubbed, like noises and stuff that would happen. And those birds would make that noise that I don't even know. Literally, I think they were playing waveforms backwards and like over peaking them and stuff like that. It was really cool. It felt kind of digital in that sense. You're right.
I also like the background noise in the Twilight realm where it sounds like Silent Hill
like beep, 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 beep,
a little bit.
Beep.
Like the kind of, I don't know, bizarro background music that they had. I love it.
I remember playing Twilight and loving Ocarina and then playing Twilight and just feeling like kind of like I was back in Ocarina, but it was beautiful. Like there's some of the similar callbacks. The big, huge bridge is great. It was weird having Lake Hylia be so far down. Like this whole vertical element was starting to happen in that game. Yeah. And technically it was their first foray. No, that's not true. Wind Waker did it. Where they would stream data in. So in Ocarina, every single area needs to be gets preloaded. That's why there's all those like fade to black, Link walks up a staircase moments.
Right.
That still happens going interior to exterior in Twilight Princess. But when you're in the Hyrule Field and have you ever noticed that there's like little hallways to bigger sections of Hyrule? That's because those are loading zones.
Yeah, when you're riding your horse through them, it's like shooting toward you at a really weird kind of speed and animation every once in a while.
They bring the camera down low so that they're loading up the next area so you can't see it load in. And it was technically a streaming technology, which they first deployed in Wind Waker to load the islands as you got closer to them on the ocean.
Oh.
And I feel like the loading in Wind Waker is amazing. Like you see no pop in on Wind Waker.
I have play that game again now.
I have looked at the islands in the distance and I've just gone toward it, just staring at it, trying to find when does the polygon count increase, or like when is it just a bitmap back there or a PNG, and when does it turn into polygons? You can't tell in Wind Waker for GameCube for sure. HD, they probably just rendered the whole thing the whole time. So then they brought that technology into loading Hyrule Field. Each individual section of Hyrule Field in Twilight Princess is the size of Ocarina's full Hyrule Field.
Oh my gosh.
By the way.
Cool.
And one other little tidbit for Breath of the Wild, that opening area that you hang out in before you get the paraglider.
Yeah.
The sailcloth or whatever they call it in that one.
Uh-huh.
That's the size of Ocarina's original Hyrule Field in Ocarina. If you do it all to scale. Anyways, let's see. Twilight had some nice, like, I just remember that when I was talking to the people, I felt like I was like they had lives. All of a sudden they had houses with items in them, and that's all just aesthetics, but it helped. Like, yeah, I guess Ocarina had a bit of that. They'd have those pre-rendered graphics for when you went inside houses and stuff.
Yeah.
Twilight, though, I don't know. I remember going into that forest temple in Twilight and being like, oh, yeah. Oh, the monkey stuff was a little annoying in Twilight.
Yeah. I remember that. When I got to that part when I was playing it through again, I was like, oh, no. I remember, like, oh, this is unfortunate that I have to get through this part, but that's okay. Well,
collecting all the monkeys. They're just keys, really.
I know.
Keys to a door. What? Do you have a favorite? Oh, I remember like the Elden Bridge kind of experience where the guy's coming right at you and you get knocked off the bridge.
Yes.
That was always very dramatic.
That was a learning curve the first time I played it. It was a lot easier this time around, but the first time I played the game, it was, I got knocked off that bridge quite a few times.
I remember that bridge, and then there's a section of Hyrule Field that just kind of curves around before you go into the next loading area. And I used to just get on Epona, zoom all the way out on the C-stick, and just like watch.
Look at it,
Link. And I've never done that again until Breath of the Wild now. But anyway.
Yeah, it's just pretty to look around.
Mm-hmm.
Back to what you were saying about how it's so linear. But it also makes fun of itself, which I kind of like. So
I don't recall
because there are certain points where Midna is like, "Oh, how convenient that we just overheard that conversation that told us the exact information that we needed to know." Like,
oh my god, I forgot about that.
But they make fun of it, like they know.
That's nice.
I think you get dropped right outside the water spirit area at one point, and she's like, oh, well, this is convenient that we just happened to drop right here. This is right where we need to be. Cool. Like,
how do you feel about Midna in general?
She can be a little annoying sometimes, but she's less annoying than a fairy that tells you to hey listen.
The hey listen fairy is pretty rough, but that was kind of that was Nintendo experimenting with that mechanic.
Yeah.
And then they kept doing it. And then Fi in Skyward Sword, I can't handle her.
Yeah.
It was like, I feel like Midna's the right mix.
Yeah, I think so.
She's a character that's
not always.
Yeah, she's kind of like around, but she's important to the narrative.
Yes.
There's a reason why she's with you, which is cool.
She's definitely more integral than.
I mean, I know in Ocarina it's like, every boy has a fairy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. That's the story. But like Midna's one of the characters that's driving the plot along.
Yes.
Also, one thing I really liked about Twilight Princess is I think it ultimately has like 12 or 15 dungeons or temples. And some of them towards the end, they do start skipping and they're like only half a temple, once you start going into the Twilight Temple and all those other things.
Yep.
However, I thought they did kind of a nice job of kind of masking, here come 8 temples. So in Ocarina, you do the 3 and then you do, what is it, 6 or something, 6 or 7 after that. 7, maybe if you're including Ganon. It's been a while since I've played Ocarina all the way to the end. And sometimes in Ocarina, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'd finish a temple. And I was like, well, I guess I got to go find the next temple now.
This definitely breaks it up into more.
Yeah. Collect these 3
pieces.
things.
Yeah,
or like now we introduce a new bad guy and he broke the shards of a thing. So now you got to go do that. And if you look at it on paper, you're like, okay, that's the 5 temples there. But they got kind of creative with the story and at least made, these 3 temples matter in this way. And then those 2 temples. I liked that very much in Twilight.
Getting there wasn't always fun.
Tell me about that.
I just played a part where you have to kind of go over And thank God for warping and being able to warp from place to place because you have to go one to another, back to the first, back to the second, back to the first, go find. It's like you have to go talk to this person when you're trying to get Elia's memory back, basically. So like, go here, talk to this person. Okay, now go to this other thing and talk to that person. Okay, go back to the first place and then give them the letter that you got from the other person. Okay, now go to a third person and give them a different letter.
Well, every Zelda kind of has like a famous fetch quest portion. They almost have to put them in there these days.
That sword in Ocarina to get the big fancy...
The Begoron sword?
Yeah.
That's a big old fetch quest, isn't it?
Yeah. That was like the
There's a massive one in Link's Awakening too. You trade. It's just a trade. There's a term for that. But I can't remember it right now, about trading up. There's a Japanese legend about a guy who keeps trading and becomes a millionaire. But well, we're kind of running out of time here, to be honest. And I think let's do some recaps. Let's just do some final thoughts on Twilight Princess, because what we'll probably do 10, 15 episodes from now, we'll do a deep dive into Twilight, you know. Okay. But right now, I think it's my favorite besides Breath, and I'm sticking to it, though I enjoy many of the Zelda games. Mm-hmm. I liked it because for me, it was the most immersive from a narrative and from just the aesthetics for myself. I didn't need to. I actually liked Wind Waker, but you have to kind of use your imagination with Wind Waker of like, oh, that's grass. It's really just a big blob of green. I agree, yeah. You know, but it's okay too. I thought Wind Waker was fine. Another thing I'd kind of like to talk about in this show is I'd like to do a couple episodes of like Zelda likes. What I mean is like Star Fox Adventures or Beyond Good and Evil, games that basically clone the Zelda model, but that other companies made.
Gotcha.
Maybe we'll dip into that once in a while.
Okay.
A little while. So you've got a couple more notes there, huh?
I was just looking over them to make sure I have gone over them. Oh, why doesn't the hero of time, the swordsman, help me more? That's my question.
In Twilight Princess?
Yeah. He teaches me all these cool moves. Like, can he hang out with me too?
Oh, he's the one that's in the other realm, the White Wolf thing?
Yeah, I feel like, why is he doing this? Who is this person? Which I saw a theory that he might be Link from Ocarina of Time.
Yes, I've heard that as well.
That was in the book that I have.
That's official Nintendo theory then. Because that book is Nintendo
Well, I think it even
canon.
says some may think, or, it's cheeky about it. But who is this person? Why am I being taught this by this person? Why doesn't he help me more?
I agree. I think, unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's just a mechanic to learn new moves, and they had to make it make sense.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, let's just go to another realm. But it would be cool.
He calls him my son,
Really?
Shouldn't he be more involved if he's my dad?
Is Link in Twilight Princess, they don't talk about him being an orphan or not, but he definitely lives on his own.
Yeah.
Like Link in Wind Waker has a grandma and a family. Obviously, it's his sister and stuff like that.
So that's a mystery. I wish that had been fleshed out a little more, maybe.
I do remember thinking, doing all the cool moves in Wind Waker, all those little jump power / whatever moves, right?
Yeah.
And when I started playing Twilight, I was like, what? They took these moves out? I can't do these cool moves? And then the Hero of Time, I started doing the White Wolf stuff. And I was like, oh, here's those moves. They're putting them back in. They just are going to teach them to you as you go.
Yeah.
I like it. That was the first time you got
side quest.
No, I think Wind Waker had finishing moves and stuff like that. Push A. But Twilight definitely embraced that.
Yeah.
If you got an enemy down.
And that's another way that the Wii controls are kind of beneficial because you're actually swinging the sword. It feels a little more realistic.
So I do remember one other note about Twilight Princess, because I played it multiple times on GameCube, which is the reversed one. It depends on your perspective. One of them, they're mirrored. They're H mirrored.
Yep.
H axis mirrored, and or Y axis, whatever one you want to call it. Depends on if you're using Photoshop or Premiere. But anyway,
nerd alert.
When I was playing the Wii one, I genuinely was disoriented having everything swapped. I'd memorized the GameCube one so much, so you're doing it swapped right now.
Yeah, but it's been a while since I played it last, so I'm not getting confused. I wonder if the Twilight. It's the camera.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wonder if the Twilight HD remix, which version it is, if it's GameCube swapped or if it's Wii swapped.
I don't know, but it is interesting that in the Wii version he is right-handed then, so that's different too.
That's why they did it, because you hold the Wiimote in your right hand. That's the only reason they did it, and I was kind of upset about that.
He's left-handed.
Because on the GameCube controls, it all makes sense. The R The shield works correct. Like there's a like the shoulder buttons are almost your hands on the GameCube controller. You know, bring up the shield, bring up the, you know, like stuff like that. Man alive, I don't know. I think I'm looking forward to playing Twilight Princess again, and I'll probably play the HD version. And I'll probably play it on Wii U.
It's so fun,
and I'll probably love it.
I've already spent I'm trying to speed through it and I was trying to speed through it for the purpose of this podcast, so I could kind of refresh my memory. And I've already done 30 hours, and that's me speeding through. I'm also not great at video games, so some of it took me a while. But I'm trying to go through this quickly, and whenever I save, I'm like, dang, I spent 30 hours. This is a big game, regardless of if you're trying to just.
It does speed up towards the end. The temples get a little shorter. Yep. You start to get to a point where you just go temple, temple, temple by the end.
Yeah, I'm almost to the end. I'm almost going into the Twilight.
I loved the Ganon battle. Let's finish with the Ganon battle and we'll get out of here. I thought that was a great use of all the different mechanics.
Yeah.
When you start off with the pig guy running around. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one where, I was taken. So Ocarina's story real quick. I brought my Nintendo 64 into school to hook it up to a television.
Forget your
in the
sister's
AV
house.
department.
You brought it to school.
Into the AV department to show my friends the Ganon cinematics when you beat him at the end. So after school, people came to the AV room and I beat him real quick just to that was so mind-blowing that there could be cinematics back then in that idea.
We didn't even get into the nightmare cinematics of Twilight Princess after.
Wait, tell me, what are you talking about? The nightmares?
When they're giving you the backstory and it's horrifying. We didn't even bring that up.
Whoa, you're right.
When their eyes turn all white and they're floating upside down going, and Elia's floating upside down.
Bit of Majora's Mask there.
Horrifying sometimes.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, that's pretty intense. I do recall the Ganon fight genuinely being impressed and being like, oh, another thing. Oh, another thing. Yeah. And then we're on horseback. And of course they're bringing, I'm so glad they brought the horse back, whatever, to that fight.
Yep. Since you've been using it the whole game anyway, might as well.
Side note, and with a mild spoiler, but not a real spoiler, the the horseback portion of the Ganon fight in Breath of the Wild is underwhelming compared to the Twilight version. Yeah. I feel like Breath of the Wild is not about Ganon, though. It's about the land.
It is.
It's and then I guess there's this thing to beat at the end.
You remember you have to be doing this thing. Can you just remember you have a goal?
It's true. It's really about all the other things. Yep. Okay, well, cool. Let's wrap this episode up. This was a lot of fun. We'll dive in. I think next week we're going to, well, actually, I didn't talk to you about this yet. I think we're going to have this show come out bi-weekly, every other week.
Okay.
I think it's just going to work better for our recording schedule. And we'll see. If we want to start spitting out stuff quicker, we'll do that, but it also gives us an opportunity that maybe these little Let's Play thingies that I just kind of...
I would love to play more games that I have not had the chance to.
Cool. Let's warm up.
Awesome.
Maybe in a couple weeks, because it is the holidays. We're coming into the holidays here. People are hearing this probably just after Christmas now.
Merry Christmas. Here's your present.
Happy holidays to all. It's us. Wow. Wow. Humble, which is cool. She records a podcast for 40 minutes and then all of a sudden...
Instant pro.
Maybe this is an opportunity for us to release those Let's Plays alternately of when the episodes come out, I'm saying.
Okay.
If this comes out every 2 weeks. Cool. All right, cool. Well, you can find us on Facebook by searching Another Zelda Podcast. Twitter, our handle is Another Zelda Pod. You can find us on YouTube, Another Zelda Podcast. It's all there. Our URL is anotherzeldapodcast.com. It's all very simple.
There's a theme here.
Yeah, it's our title.
Yeah.
Where you can listen to our episodes. If you go to YouTube, you can listen to our episodes. It'll just be the audio version, I think, is what we're going to do in the beginning. Maybe in season 2, we'll whip out some cameras and start recording us, but I think we'll keep it audio for a while here. Does that sound good?
It sounds good to me.
I like it. All right, everybody. Let's see. Kate, if people want to find you, if they're inclined to find you on Instagram or Twitter or anything like that, is there anything you want to share? I
never got Twitter, but I am on Instagram, and my name currently is I Only Take Cat Pics. Even though I also take non-cat pics, which is my bio.
People subscribe.
I also take non-cat pics.
Did you read the bio? Oh man, I feel like I got kind of screwed over here.
I came here for the cat content.
Fantastic. People can find me on Twitter at Raptor Paint. It's also Raptor Paint on Instagram, and that's that.
Cool.
I'm
gonna go play some video games.
I know. I kind of want to go play too right now.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, okay. All right. Let's get out of here. Thanks, Kate. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we're kind of warming up. Next week, we're definitely going to do forest temples. So if you're still listening and you want to, I should have said this at the top of the episode, but if you want to tweet us and talk to us about some of your favorite forest temples or least favorite forest temples, please do. And we'll talk about that as well. Or you can put comments. If you want to do a longer comment, you can do it on our Facebook page, which of course you can find it, Another Zelda Podcast. That would be great if people talk to us a little bit about things they loved or hated about temples.
Absolutely.
We probably don't have like a large audience yet, but let's just start inviting people right off the get-go. Sound good?
Sounds awesome.
All right, Kate. See you next week.
Okay.